To avoid affecting my younger sister's reputation, my mother begged me to adopt the child she had out of wedlock. I devoted myself to raising her daughter into adulthood, thinking I would earn her gratitude. Unexpectedly, in order to seize all of my assets, my younger sister joined forces with her own daughter to kill my biological daughter. When I opened my eyes again, I had somehow returned to the moment when my mother first asked me to raise that little ungrateful wretch. This time, I flatly refused. Whoever gave birth to the child should raise it. I'm not going to be the sucker. The atmosphere in the living room was tense. Dad looked stern, Mom looked pained, and only Sue Shinting, standing in the corner, stood there with her belly out and her neck stiff. I've already said it. This baby in my belly has to be born. At worst, I'll raise it myself. Just as she finished speaking, Dad, furious, dashed up to her in a single stride and slapped her hard across the face. Her skin was delicate. A slap left her face bright red. Her mother, who had always doted on her, quickly pulled her father aside to stop him from hitting her again, and then spoke herself. Do you even know how hard it is to raise a child? Food, clothing, shelter, and all the rest cost money. You're only 22, and you don't even have a job. Do you have the ability to raise a child? Besides, by then, what kind of good family do you think you'll be able to find if you're carrying a child? As soon as her mother finished speaking, Sue Shinting actually started wiping away tears in grievance. What am I supposed to do? She's already 8 months along. It can't even be aborted now. What else can I do if I don't give birth to her? After saying that, she even began to sob. This all too familiar scene made me instantly realize that I had been reborn to before the time when the child who was later adopted by Sue Shinting came along. In my previous life, it was also on this very day. I was still at work when my parents called me home on the pretext that something serious had happened at home. Only after I got home did I learn that Sue Shinting was pregnant, and the baby in her womb was already 8 months along, yet she didn't even know who the child's father was. After lashing out at her in anger, my parents then turned their criticism toward me. They said Sue Shinting still wasn't married, and if she had to take care of a child as well, her whole life would be ruined. They couldn't just stand by and let something so terrible happen. Only if I adopted the child would it be the best choice. Of course, I was unwilling, but my parents cried and threw a fuss, and later even tried to kneel down and beg me. With no other choice, I had to agree. That child was handed to me as soon as she was born. I raised her as if she were my own daughter, bought her beautiful clothes, sent her to the best schools, and spent a fortune so she could learn arts and talents. But that child seemed to have inherited the worst traits from her biological parents' genes. Even at a young age, she refused to go down the right path and spent her days hanging out with those young men and women outside. She worried me to no end. Even so, I still patiently guided and taught her. I never expected her to collude with those hoodlums and deliberately bully my biological daughter, ultimately driving my daughter to take her own life. Losing my daughter in middle age left me overwhelmed with grief, but later, I realized that all of this had been deliberate on her part. She had even been the one to lead my daughter to suicide, and the only reason was that she wanted to get all of our attention and property, and my dear sister was the one who fanned the flames behind all of this. I was filled with utter regret, so the moment I realized I had been reborn, I swore that I would never again, as in my previous life, invite a wolf into the house. But I also knew they wouldn't give up easily, so I still had a tough battle to fight. Sure enough, after the room fell silent for a while, Mom turned her gaze to me. Cindy, what do you think about this? I don't have much of an opinion. Then you're going to let her have the baby? The way she said it made it sound as if Sue Shinting was only having this baby because of me. I'm not taking that blame, so I quickly spoke up. What do you mean I made her have the baby? It's not like I was the one who got her pregnant. Don't pin this on me. Sue Shinting is an adult. She knows what she should do and what she shouldn't. When my mother heard my somewhat resistant words, her face flushed. Look at you, child, no one said this was your responsibility. But in the next instant, she said again, your sister is still young. If she ends up with a child, how would she ever get married in the future? Hearing this familiar line, I thought to myself, so it's finally come. My mother carefully watched my expression. Seeing that I had no objections, she began to continue, speaking with a clear conscience. This is what I was thinking. You see, Lin Shen and I have been married for so many years and never had a second child. We only have one child, Bebe, so why not have Shinting give birth to the baby and then have it adopted by you to raise, as if it were your own? What do you think? After saying that, she looked at me eagerly, and I was already seething with anger. It had always been like this since I was little. They favored Sue Shinting and sided with her in everything. This matter is the same. it was clearly meant to help Su Xinting solve a problem, yet the way she said it made it sound as if she were bestowing a favor on me. It was truly hard to accept, seeing that I said nothing. Mom looked somewhat embarrassed, but she had no choice but to brace herself and continue. Cindy, you and Xinting are full sisters. After all, you won't refuse to help with this, will you? Su Xinting and I share the same mother, but our relationship has never been good. When my parents gave birth to me, they said the family was in poor financial condition, so they left me with my grandparents in the countryside. By the time Su Xinting was born, our family's situation had improved, so she grew up with our parents. Because of that, we actually didn't spend much time together. When I was 15, my grandparents passed away, and I returned from the countryside to live at home. At that time, the three of them were living a blissful and harmonious life, while I felt like an outsider. Su Xinting thought I had stolen Mom and Dad's attention from her, and she often gave me a hard time, and when I told Mom and Dad, they would say that my younger sister was still young and that I should indulge her, so I suffered a great deal of grievance for it. They spoiled Su Xinting rotten and let her run wild, yet made me bear the consequences of her mistakes. No way, so I spoke up. Whoever wants it can have it. I don't want it anyway. My words were crisp, my attitude resolute, and I rejected it outright. Su Xinting also knew that she simply couldn't support a child on her own, and she had been counting on her family to help raise it, so when Mom was talking to me just now, she didn't make a sound and only listened intently, but when she heard that I didn't plan to help her, she completely broke down again. Who said I need her to help raise my child? I don't need her, I can give birth, so I can raise her too. Even if I have to live on chaff and wild greens, I'll still raise her. With that, she turned and was about to head outside. She was already 8 months pregnant, with a frighteningly large belly. At a time like this, who would dare let her go out? Her mother tried to coax her and also tried to stop her. She, meanwhile, cried and made a fuss, insisting on leaving. The scene was a complete mess for a while. I stood by and coldly watched it all unfold, and found it utterly ridiculous, until Dad's angry shout broke the deadlock. Do you still think it's not embarrassing enough? How long are you going to keep making a scene? Dad scolded Su Xinting again. Although his words were harsh and unpleasant, I knew he was only angry for the moment. In his heart, the one he loved most was still this second daughter, whom he had raised as his precious girl. As expected, after taking care of Su Xinting's matter, he turned to look at me, his tone hard and unyielding. You're the older sister, so you should help your younger sister. I've made the decision on this. Once your sister gives birth, bring the child to you, then it'll call you Mom and take care of you in your old age. So you still want me to raise it? So I reiterated once again, whoever gave birth to it should raise it. I don't want that child. My dad, who had always been the authority in the family, was rarely ever talked back to. After hearing what I said, his expression immediately turned ugly. Seeing this, Mom hurriedly pulled me aside. Cindy, are you afraid that Lin Shen won't agree? Mom is telling you, Lin Shen has a good temper. If he doesn't agree by then, you can. I looked at the person in front of me who was teaching me how to pressure my husband, and I only felt that she was terribly unfamiliar. I suddenly thought of my previous life. After my daughter Huan died, she had also pulled me aside like this and told me that since Huan was dead, there was no point in pursuing it any further. I should magnanimously let go of past grievances and forgive that ungrateful little wretch, then give my property to her in hopes that she would support me in my old age and see me off. At the end, I began to doubt, was she really my mother? I almost wished I wasn't her biological daughter, only then might I be able to understand why they treated me differently, but it only ended up disappointing me. I interrupted my mother, who was still going on and on about how to tame a husband. My first question, am I really your daughter? Did you ever truly love me? Why are you always making plans for Su Xinting and ignoring my feelings? I've already said it several times, I don't want this baby. Is that so hard to understand? Su Xinting made the mistake, so why do I have to bear the consequences? Is that fair to me? From childhood to adulthood, I had always been very respectful toward them. This was the first time I had ever said something like this. Mom froze for a moment, said immediately, you see, you child, why are you still holding a grudge? Your younger sister is still little and doesn't know better. It's only normal for Mom and Dad to look after her a bit more, but we've never treated you badly either. Didn't I come to take care of you when you were in your postpartum confinement? Indeed, she did come when I was in my postpartum period, and she brought a bag full of eggs, saying they were free-range eggs bought in the village and very nutritious. But when I turned around, I found a supermarket receipt in the bag. After she cooked for me for a whole day, She said the next day that she was too tired to get out of bed. It was me, enduring the pain of my incision, who forced myself to cook for her. She came and didn't help at all, only made a lot of mess. In the end, there was no choice but to ask her to leave and have my mother-in-law come instead. My mother-in-law, though also from the countryside and not very educated, treated me very well. Knowing that I was afraid of gaining weight, she learned about nutritious meals online every day and made all kinds of delicious food for me. It was precisely because of this that, after my confinement period ended, I was able to be in such good condition, but Mom kept telling everyone that this was all thanks to her. Thinking of this, I suddenly felt exhausted. I felt that nothing I said would make any difference anyway. As long as I didn't give in, they had no way around it, so I added another line: do whatever you want, whoever's child it is can raise it, it has nothing to do with me, I'm heading back. After saying that, I turned and left. As soon as I stepped out of the room, I heard Dad's roar. Let her go, all of you can go, what an ungrateful brat, just pretend we raised her for nothing. I stood at the door and held back again and again, but in the end I still couldn't take it and turned back. You never raised me in the first place, I was raised by my grandparents. After saying that, I turned and walked away again. Even when the ashtray whizzed past over my head, I didn't stop. On the way back, just thinking that I'd soon get to see my daughter Juan filled me with joy. My daughter Juan is both smart and sensible. What's rare is that, despite being so young, she is especially understanding and considerate. Most children, when they know a new child has joined their family, would inevitably feel a bit competitive for affection, but she showed not the slightest trace of jealousy. Whenever there was something tasty or good to drink, she would always give it to her younger sister. But such a good child was later treated like this by them. What made me feel most guilty was that back then all my attention was on that little ingrate, and I failed to notice my daughter's abnormal behavior. After my daughter left, I kept thinking that if only I had discovered it earlier, if I hadn't brought that little ungrateful wolf home, would she still be fine? I realized that this time, I must protect my daughter properly. I not only need to teach her truth, goodness, and beauty, but also that there are people in this world as vicious as snakes and scorpions. For the sake of a little profit, they will stop at nothing. The moment I got home and saw my daughter, I hugged her tightly, feeling her small, soft little body. I couldn't help but burst into tears. After my daughter noticed my tears, she used her little hands to wipe them away for me. Little by little, Mom, is someone bullying you? Her voice was soft and babyish, yet it carried deep concern. Looking at her adorable little face, I couldn't help pinching her chubby cheeks. No one is bullying Mommy. Mommy just missed you too much. Mommy, I miss you too. My daughter kissed me on the cheek and said sweetly. In that instant, I felt completely healed. Just then, Lin Shen heard the sound and came out of the room. He asked, "How's everything at home? Nothing happened, right?" I glanced at my daughter. Juan, go to the living room and watch some cartoons for a while. Mom and Dad need to talk about something. After my daughter left, I told Lin Shen the whole story from beginning to end. He was stunned for quite a while before finally saying, "Your sister is really something else." After hearing Lin Shen say that, the tension I'd been holding all day suddenly eased. He has exactly that kind of ability. Whenever I'm upset, he can always cheer me up. After the joke, we got down to business. I couldn't tell Lin Shen that I had been reborn, so I could only say, I have a feeling that this child's arrival will definitely throw our lives into chaos. I don't want anyone to disturb us. Lin Shen smiled. Why make it sound so ominous? But everything in our family is up to you. Whatever you say goes. Still, Mother and father-in-law probably won't let this go so easily, will they? I had to admit, Lin Shen had hit the nail on the head. The next day, my mom's call came through. Your dad was so angry at you yesterday that he didn't sleep all night, and he's still complaining of a headache. Your sister was also so angry at you that her stomach hurt, and she's still in the hospital. You, listening to the complaints from the other end, I interrupted her again. I still don't understand what exactly I did to piss you all off. Could it be just because I refused to help Su Xinting raise her child? I have the right to say no, don't I? My mother on the other end of the line, however, didn't respond to what I said. She was still accusing me. You become so petty and nitpicky now. Your dad was right. You're just not close to us. And it's not like you don't have the means now, so what if you can't afford to raise a child? What's wrong with helping your younger sister? If I had heard my mom say these words before, I definitely would have been heartbroken for a long time. But now I felt no emotional stir at all, and even had the mood to joke with my mom. Let me give you some advice. Go find the biological father of the child in Su Xinting's belly, Stop always trying to shove that kid over to me, really disgusting." After saying that, I hung up the phone. Later, my mom called several more times, but I didn't answer any of them. This behavior completely enraged my parents. The next few days were extremely painful for me, because every day I received several harassment calls. "Aunt Cindy, you're not young anymore, why are you still so unreasonable? You should also think about your parents. If your younger sister's matter isn't resolved, how worried must your parents be? Second uncle, you've gone too far, your mother is so old, and she still has to put up with your temper. She called me yesterday crying like a tearful mess." Cousin-in-law, you really don't want that child becoming a mother without pain. What a blessing. Me, if this blessing is so great, I'll give it to you. Do you want it? Because of this, I've offended quite a few people these past few days, but who told them to meddle in other people's business? Of course, among my relatives there were also quite a few younger ones who supported me. They left comments saying I handled it beautifully, and even said that where there is oppression, there is resistance. I've now quite literally become the most self-centered person in their eyes. Actually, I really don't understand what my parents are doing. According to them, they were afraid of affecting Su Xinting's chances of getting married. If that was the case, wouldn't it be better for as few people as possible to know about this? But now they're making such a huge fuss and bringing the whole family together to denounce me, as if they're afraid no one else will find out. Could it be they're trying to guilt-trip me with morality? I really couldn't figure it out. Time passed in such noise and commotion until a month later, Su Xinting suddenly went into labor and was rushed to the hospital. After a day and a night, she gave birth to a daughter, the same little ungrateful wretch from my previous life. During this time, my parents still had not given up on the idea of having me adopt the child, and they urged me to go to the hospital many times, and she even said I just haven't seen that child yet. Once I do, I'm sure I'll like them. Of course, I have refused them all. I'm afraid I won't be able to stop myself from hurting that little ungrateful brat. Just thinking about how, in my previous life, she had instigated those thugs to burn my daughter's body with cigarette butts, and later lured my daughter into suicide. I wanted nothing more than to beat her to death on the spot. Unlike how she used to brush me off, my mom's care for Su Xinting was nothing short of meticulous. The chicken had to be free-range local chicken raised on grain, the eggs had to be freshly laid local eggs, and even the vegetables had to be organic every day. We changed up the dishes to make delicious food for Su Xinting. We pampered her like a lady of high society. Su Xinting was born selfish and self-centered, never considering anyone else, even if they were her own parents. As a mother, she should have been taking care of the child herself, but she used her poor health as an excuse, saying she couldn't stay up late, and as soon as night fell, she would be fast asleep. So that child was practically raised by my parents. The two of them were already around 50, and they had worn themselves out until they looked like old tree bark. Their dark circles were practically hanging down to the ground. She simply acted as if she couldn't see it, and my parents also made excuses for her, saying that having a child had damaged her vitality and that she needed proper rest. Implicitly, they were saying I was unfilial and didn't know how to help my parents. I made no comment on that. Some exhaustion is brought on by yourself. I had thought the matter would end there. Little did I know that an even bigger surprise was waiting for me later. That day, I was still at work when I suddenly got a call from Lin Shen. He said my parents had brought the child to our house, and he was almost unable to hold them off. He was hiding in the bathroom to make this call to me. After I answered the phone, I rushed back home immediately. By the time I got back, the two sides were still tussling at the doorway. My mom insisted on handing the child in her arms to Lin Shen, while Lin Shen kept waving his hands and didn't dare take him. "What are you doing?" I suddenly spoke up, and my mom was startled. When she saw it was me, she looked a little guilty. "Oh, Cindy is back. Lin Shen, look at you, you even got Cindy called back. She's so busy with work." Lin Shen shrugged at me and gave a wry smile. I instantly understood what he meant. My parents must have taken advantage of the fact that I wasn't home. Since Lin Shen couldn't refuse them, they left the child here to force me to comply. At that thought, my tone was far from polite. "Are you done making a scene yet?" My mom smiled ingratiatingly. No trouble at all. It's like this, Xinting still hasn't recovered yet, and your dad and I have been worn out these past couple of days by this child, so we were thinking of having you take care of her for a couple of days first." Take care of her for a couple of days, that sounded nice enough. "I'm afraid there will be countless more 2-day periods after those 2 days, I said coldly. "Then what does that have to do with me?" The smile on my mother's face froze. "Look at you, child, why do you have to speak so harshly? We're all your family. what do you think our relationship is? Even if you don't want to take care of your sister, you still have parents, don't you? Your parents are already this old. And you're just going to watch us work ourselves to the bone. Doesn't that make you feel bad at all? Your dad's back was so sore the other day he couldn't even straighten up. I looked up at my dad, and he did seem a lot more haggard than the last time I saw him, but what did that have to do with me? Didn't you bring that on yourselves? If you think it's too tiring, then let her mom support her instead. After hearing this, my dad's expression changed, and it looked like he was about to lose his temper again. My mom quickly nudged his arm, signaling him not to get worked up. What followed was basically the same back and forth again and again. They insisted on leaving the child with me, while I firmly refused. The two sides were at an impasse for a time, until the very end, when I wasn't paying attention. My mom threw the child onto the ground and dragged my dad away. That left only Lin Shen and me, standing there in a daze, staring at the child lying on the ground. Things had come to this point, so I decided to ask my mother-in-law to step in, because shortly after Lin Shen was born, his father died. In order to hold the family together, his grandmother developed a very fierce temperament. Back then, she was also an overlord in the village. Very few people could stand against her. It was only in recent years, after Lin Shen got married, that her temper had become somewhat more restrained. After receiving my call, my mother-in-law rushed over from the village immediately. The next day, she came to our door holding that child in her arms. It was said that the scene at the time caused quite a commotion. As soon as my parents saw my mother-in-law carrying a child, they knew something was terribly wrong. As expected, as soon as my parents-in-law saw my parents, they started cursing. They called them shameless old people, saying that at their age they still couldn't act like decent human beings. They only knew how to favor their younger daughter. Even though others weren't willing to raise her child, they still insisted on sending the child over and making things difficult for people. They also said that if they didn't want this child, they should give the child away as soon as possible. The sharpness of her words and the speed of her speech left my parents unable to get a single word in. Su Xinting had been spoiled since childhood and had never seen a scene like this before. Now, being scolded at the doorway by a rural old woman, she could not bear the humiliation, so she started cursing back too. My mother-in-law wasn't afraid at all either. He started cursing at Su Xinting. You still have the nerve to say that? The worst one is you. You had a child and didn't raise it. What kind of mother are you? You keep going to trouble your own older sister every day and making her life miserable. If you can't afford to raise a kid, then don't have one. You had a bastard whose father no one even knows, and you still have the nerve to show up here shamelessly. Do you have any face at all? I'm telling you, if you dare bother my son and my daughter-in-law again, I'll turn your world upside down. After saying that, she tossed the child into Su Xinting's arms, then she went straight into the house. There was a loud crash as she started smashing things. Don't be fooled by how domineering my parents are when facing me. When they run into a shrew, like my mother-in-law, they're completely helpless. They could only watch helplessly as the house was smashed to pieces. After the smashing and wrecking, my mother-in-law came back with her head held high, looking as triumphant as a victorious rooster. As soon as she came back, she wilted. Cindy, do you think I went too far? Your mom was even wiping away tears. After hearing me say it was nothing, my mother-in-law finally let out a long breath. It's not that I'm cold-hearted. Only by doing this could I put an end to my parents' hopes. Otherwise, they would never give up the idea of handing the child over to me. After staying at home for 2 days, my mother-in-law insisted on leaving on the 3rd day. No matter what, the chickens and ducks at home are being looked after by someone we asked for help, and it's not good to keep troubling others. This time I came in a hurry. Last time your second aunt brought over a lot of mushrooms. Cindy, I saw that you like to eat them, so I'll mail them to you after I get back. Lin Shen, your wife has it hard. You have to treat your wife well, understand? Oh, come on, let's hurry up and go. This city is good in every way, except there's no one to chat with. Honestly, I'd rather go back and chat with those old ladies. That feels much more comfortable. I knew my mother-in-law didn't want to affect us. Although she was born in the countryside, she was a remarkably clear-headed old woman. She knew that even the best mother-in-law and daughter-in-law would still have conflicts after living together for a long time. So she simply chose not to herself in our lives and let each of us live our own life. It was precisely because of my mother-in-law's sense of boundaries that I dared to ask her for this favor. As I expected, after this time, My parents never brought up the idea of having me raise a child again. I finally got to enjoy a few peaceful days, but later I learned that all the peaceful and quiet days are only possible because someone is shouldering the burden for you. The child was sent by them to be raised by my cousin-in-law. That's the one who said I was lucky to become a mom painlessly. She's almost 40 this year, and ever since she had a son a few years ago, her belly hasn't had any movement since. She has always dreamed of having a sweet, soft little daughter. I have to say, she was also a bit of an airhead. After witnessing all of this, she still had the courage to raise Su Xinting's child. When they found out she wanted the child, my parents were overjoyed and packed up the child's things and delivered them over that very day. If the story had ended here, it would still have been a pretty good ending, but Su Xinting was just asking for trouble. She didn't know what had gotten into her. But she suddenly awakened to maternal love. It wasn't that she was being picky about the formula my cousin-in-law used for the baby, or that the diapers she bought were no good. My cousin-in-law hadn't taken care of a child for a long time, and thought she really had been shortchanging the baby, so she changed them several times according to Su Xinting's demands. But she never expected that my sister-in-law's lifelong compromise would actually lead Su Xinting to push her luck even further. Over the next period of time, she completely lost her mind. In the end, my sister-in-law, unable to bear the constant harassment, sent the child back again. Su Xinting had finally settled down. In order to keep Su Xinting focused and stop her from making a scene, my parents began asking around to find her a match, but now Su Xinting had nothing, and she also had a burden in tow. Anyone with decent conditions would simply not consider her. Those with poor conditions, those who were divorced, those who were not good-looking, those with children, Su Xinting looked down on all of them. She even scolded the matchmaker who had been trying to arrange a marriage for her. The matchmaker turned around and spread the word about it. Now no one dared take on the job. She found it boring to stay at home, so she made up an excuse that she was going out to work and ran off again. But it wasn't long before she came back again, and this time, she had a blonde-haired guy with her. She said she was going to marry that blonde-haired guy. Everyone was utterly shocked. They had only known each other for a short time, and he hadn't even been to her home before he was already shouting about getting married. The key point was that the bleached blonde guy clearly didn't look like a good person, and he was acting all arrogant as if he were some big shot. His only advantage was that he was good-looking. After the bleached blonde guy arrived, he started bossing everyone around at home, and even said that if Su Xinting married him, she would have to bring a 200,000 yuan dowry. Her parents disagreed, and Su Xinting cried and made a scene, threatening to go on a hunger strike. This time, her parents hardened their hearts too and told Su Xinting that if she didn't want to eat, then she didn't have to eat, and they even locked her in her room. But who would have thought she actually slit her wrists in the middle of the night? It was only because her parents felt something was off that they discovered it. Su Xinting was rushed to the hospital. Fortunately, it was discovered early, and there was nothing serious. She just needed some rest and recovery. After this incident, both mom and dad were thoroughly frightened and no longer dared to stop Su Xinting, afraid that she might do something foolish again. But unexpectedly, trouble cropped up on Huang Mao's side again. It turned out that Su Xinting had never told the blonde-haired guy that she also had a child only a few months old. What she told him was that the child was mine, and because I was busy with work, we had left him at home to be raised. The blonde-haired guy wasn't stupid. After staying there for 2 days, he saw through the whole situation, so he came up with new demands. The first was that the child absolutely could not be brought back. My parents would have to keep raising him. Second, the dowry has to be increased by another 100,000. My parents were furious. But Su Xinting cried and said that she had already had a child before marriage. Her reputation was ruined. She had no job, and what kind of man could she still hope to find, now that she had finally found someone willing to marry her? So be it. My parents called me, hoping I could talk Su Xinting out of it, but I told them I had no way either. Su Xinting is both vicious and stupid. This can be seen from the fact that after she found out she was pregnant, she didn't hurry to get an abortion while it was still early. Instead, she insisted on dragging it out until 8 months. If I tried to persuade her, it would definitely backfire. Besides, everyone has their own path to walk. Respecting others' fate and letting go of my savior complex is what I should really do. A few months later, Su Xinting and Huang Mao really got married, but this was the beginning of her suffering. No matter how unruly she had been before, her parents would always be there to catch her when she fell. But after marrying the blonde-haired thug, she could no longer be her little princess. Not only did she have to go out to work, but after coming home she also had to do the laundry and cook, and even wait on the blonde-haired thug, who spent all day at home playing video games. If she was even slightly careless, she would be beaten and verbally abused by the blonde-haired thug. Come to think of it, it was rather strange. The woman she had been before was arrogant and domineering, never willing to suffer the slightest loss, yet after getting married, she had actually fallen so far that even after being beaten, she didn't dare tell her family. Even so, her trying to swallow her grievances and keep the peace still did not lead to a good outcome. After the blonde-haired girl spent all the money, she ran off. When she came back again, everyone realized that she had changed a lot and was no longer as willful and overbearing as before, but she was no longer as lively as she had been before either. That night, when she went to sleep, her mother also found marks on her arm from being burned by cigarette butts. Her mother cried heartbrokenly, but she showed no expression at all. When my mother told me this news, I only felt extremely surprised. The Su Xinting, who had always